are you?
I'm great. How you doing? Are you okay?
I'm doing very well.
I'm really pleased to see you. I'm so sorry. Normally I send the link, half an hour in advance.
No worries.
my my sister has come down this weekend for the first time ever because
Very cool.
it's my birthday this week coming.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations in
Thank
advance.
thank you. And so yeah, I haven't actually seen my sister for over 20 years. So yeah, and that the house has been crazy full of kids and stuff like that. So I apologize. I'm really sorry. Oh, I'm struggling to hear you now. Sorry.
Able to hear me better now?
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I can't tell which one of the five mics gets picked up sometimes.
You've got five. Oh, so do you do podcasting yourself?
Well, not so much podcasting, but I do a lot of workshops.
Okay.
So for that, depending on the audience, depending on the situation, I might use a different headphone.
Yeah.
Or sometimes the camera has a headphone and or a microphone, and a laptop has its own microphone. So who knows which one's going to get picked up?
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I've been recently I've been having a problem where after I've processed the video, the
Yeah.
sound is only coming out of the left speaker.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
I think I figured that out today though. I think I've sorted it.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
That'd be interesting.
yeah, so it's wonderful to see you. You look amazing. You look
Oh,
Christmassy. You've
thank
got
you. Oh yeah,
this.
it's I'm in Canada, and
Okay.
it's winter here. It's although I'm in Toronto, I have to say -2. In some other
Wow.
parts of Canada, it's -20. So people are already shoveling
Whoa.
snow in loads.
Whew. Wow, that's crazy. So, hey, you're my second Canadian on the podcast.
Oh, very
Yeah,
cool.
I had a chap called Charlie Simpson came
Oh,
on a couple of weeks
don't know.
ago. He was running for like the Senate or something
Oh,
in his
wow. That
local
sounds
area.
really cool.
Yeah, he's quite a character. I randomly bumped into him in Barcelona in
Wow.
2006, and we always stayed in touch. So
That's more than 20 years ago. That's the
yeah.
worse than your sister.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm really excited to have you here on the Cybernaut podcast and to hear
Yeah,
all
same
about
here.
your story, your knowledge in AI and circular economy. So I'm super happy to learn all about
Yeah,
it.
thank you so much for creating the space. I wanted to say for everybody to come in and share their diverse stories, right, is the best way to put it. Because
Yeah,
a lot of the places I find focus on one thing or another, and you don't get that full overview, right? Because there's an ecosystem, and a lot of these things are connected.
yeah.
So I've been watching some of the past podcasts and YouTube videos that you've been posting, and it's amazing the diversity in there.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's really
Yeah,
kind. That's what I'm going for. My main interest is technologies or movies or
yeah,
pop fiction. Sorry, pop culture or science fiction and stuff like that.
yeah,
But initially, like the aim of this podcast was to find out about technology and develop a community based around that and around sci-fi. But
yeah,
what has tend to happen is that it's become more of a human experience, learning about people's experiences and stories and their backgrounds. And I think
yeah.
that's that's I like the way it's just naturally become
Yeah,
that
to be
sort of thing.
honest with you, sci-fi is heading in that direction, right? If you remember 10 years or so ago, it used to be very Orwellian, right?
Mm,
This is apocalyptic or whatever you want to call it. And now it's more about that Black Mirror type stuff, which is
yeah,
what would happen to your life if an event like this happens, as
yeah,
opposed to something completely out of the blue, like a black swan event could happen. There's no such thing as a black swan event anymore, right?
yeah.
It's a conjunction of a lot of these things that we know are happening and how they're going to congregate together.
We're becoming more and more interconnected,
Yeah,
and the speed at which we're becoming one with technology and one with the machine is increasing year on
yeah,
year. So yeah, it's kind of it's exciting in one way, but I can see where other people are apprehensive about the symbiosis or the relationship that humans have with technology.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. And I think it depends what relationship you've had with it in past and whether those experiences have been positive or negative, right? When you feel in control, then you're going to feel better about it. If you don't feel in
Mm.
control, then you're going to feel like you're giving up something that you have now.
Yeah, I think that's the main fear, isn't it? If you look at
Yeah.
like the Terminator movies or the Matrix or anything like that,
Mhm.
it is the fear of a loss of control of our world,
Yeah.
to the birth of a new artificial life.
Yeah.
Maybe we've already lost control. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that's a very interesting $1 million question, right? If you think about Facebook becoming Meta, that's been on top of everybody's mind these days and what that will do, right? Because if you think about it, you think you've got control over social media, you can choose not to go online, you can choose not to post. But now there's AI behind that. It's watching everything you post, it's watching everything you read, even
Mm.
how your eyes dart across your screen when you're doing that,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So, what kind of your own personal profile somebody's putting together behind the scenes and what is happening with that information. That became a whole conversation. If you remember US elections back in the day, right? How can you influence people
mm,
without them knowing that they're being influenced in some way? That was the previous conversation. Now it's more about, well, now you're creating a meta world around it, right? A metaverse. And personally, if I'm being honest, I used to perceive metaverse very differently than when Facebook got into it and started using that word.
yeah,
My
yeah,
definition of metaverse, like speaking of sci-fi, I'm a sci-fi nerd a little bit myself. It used to be you can have all these interconnected worlds, and instead of living in one world, you have this multiverse experience, right? You're
yeah,
interfacing with multiple yous and things of that nature. Whereas the Facebook's definition of it, or at least the way that people are perceiving it, is a little bit different. It's the opposite, right? You can have your own world,
yeah, yeah. That's
which
right.
is you can completely isolate yourself from anybody and everybody if you
Mm,
don't want to have that conversation. There's already problems with mental health and, among some of the young girls that use Instagram body images issues and things of that nature. So what would it do when you're in your meta world by yourself? And you're only interfacing with somebody else's meta world, not in real life, without any context, with
mm,
like little bits of pieces of their life, right? So if you're reading somebody's blog post, or if you're reading somebody's post, I did this today and I did that today. We already know that our social lives are not our real lives, right? Like
yeah.
you choose to share more happy, positive things on social media.
You want the outside world looking to you to
Exactly.
only see the positive and to
Yeah,
see
you have
like
an
this.
agenda, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's what it is. So it's one of those things where even like pictures on Facebook, right? Even if you're sharing them with family, they'd be happy pictures. If something
yeah.
else is happening in your life, your family might not know, right? So it's quite interesting how that would get enhanced, I think, in meta world, right?
It's also scary in a way as what if you are the type of person who isn't very creative and
Mm,
you end up isolated in this space with a set of default settings,
oh
and
gosh,
you don't know how to populate it. You like, so you're in
that
this.
that's a really good point. Actually, I never even thought of that.
Yeah,
There's two sides to that though. So maybe somehow if this world is given the right tools, that person could learn to be creative because maybe they just didn't
yeah,
have a chance in past. Because I think, at least I believe, I don't know if there's any data behind to prove this, but everybody has some level of creativity
yeah.
inside them, right? So it's whether your past experiences brought that out or not. I wonder if Meta World would help with some of that. But once you discover it, are you going to stay by yourself in that world with either, as you said, limited amount of creativity or
Hmm. Yeah,
continue to explore that?
it also it reminds me of a problem in game design
Mhm.
where you have a choice between creating an open world where you let the user or the player do whatever they want, and you
Right.
sacrifice narrative and you sacrifice story and meaning and purpose,
Mhm.
um, and what generally ensues without any sort of goal or target, people resort to chaos. And
Wow. Yeah, it's
yeah,
very
so
true. Yeah.
So without a goal or a purpose, and you're in this digital
It's a
world,
great point.
does
Yeah.
your life have even less meaning than
Yeah.
it might do right now?
You know what? You raise a really great point because if you think about across various social media platforms, LinkedIn and YouTube seem to be a bit better than some of the other ones, right? Like Facebook, what's the purpose, to your point?
Yeah. Well,
There
for
doesn't seem to be one. LinkedIn, at least it's a professional one. So maybe you're
yeah,
selling something or you're procuring services or some
or
such.
yeah, like for me, my purpose on LinkedIn is to grow my network,
There you go.
build
Yeah,
build a good reputation, in case I need to find a different job. And my main goal on LinkedIn right now is to find interesting people like yourself to have conversations
absolutely.
with
Yeah.
on the podcast. And
Yeah, like find people who have similar values,
yeah,
similar thought process, right? Futuristic type of interests. On Facebook, I find it's a bit, I don't know how to describe it, to be
yeah,
honest.
I can't even I can't even enjoy the use of Facebook, or use it anymore. I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost as if they've pushed the advertisements too
Yeah.
hard, but I can't see what friends or family are doing because they're not in my timeline. It's just
Oh,
advert
wow.
after
Yeah.
advert after advert after, so
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
I basically I just avoid it. And the people
Yeah.
who I communicate with, I communicate through WhatsApp or Facebook
Exactly.
Messenger,
Yeah.
face to face as much as possible.
Yeah. I
Um,
was gonna say WhatsApp is a great example, right? Same company, but a very different stakeholder group, a very
yeah,
different market. Because WhatsApp is sometimes in a group setting or it's one-on-one, right? For me,
yeah,
it's a lot more of one-on-one when I'm on WhatsApp. Group settings, you might as well jump on a call, right? It's one of
yeah,
those type of things. But it's quite interesting how different platforms may have different goals. And to your point, maybe Facebook, the social media platform, doesn't really have a goal anymore,
yeah.
other than it's become much more of a marketing person's tool, except people have now realized that what are the products and they just don't want to use it anymore.
Yeah, and I think that there is a resistance from newer users, like younger
Yeah.
people who are coming through. They see Facebook as an old person's platform now.
Yeah, yeah.
So they
Yeah.
they're also interested in quick hits of information. So that's why they're drawn to TikTok and
Yeah.
Snapchat.
Or even
They
Twitter, right?
yeah,
Seems to
yeah,
be very successful for that kind of thing.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, Twitter's it's a funny one, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
you I'm always scared to you might have an opinion about something, but you don't want to put it out there just in case 10 years from now somebody grabs that and
Yeah. The same thing
uses it.
about LinkedIn, though, right? If you're
Yeah,
posting it there, I think to your point, though, somehow LinkedIn and Facebook are similar networks, but Twitter is a little bit different. Twitter has much more of a tribe, community,
yeah,
loyalty type feel. So the way that you interact with people is a lot more personal, even when, oh, I apologize.
that's all right.
I don't even know who that is.
It's
Usually people who
probably
call me,
it's Mark Zuckerberg.
oh
He's called,
gosh, I don't have anything to say to him. I
yeah.
need to watch this. No, but yeah, it's funny. Speaking of trends and social media, right? I have noticed this. Usually people who call me on weekends, it's predictable calls because it's more
Yeah,
personal interactions. And usually on weekdays, it's anybody's guess who's calling you, right? Because it's work, it's anything.
I never answer my phone. I couldn't tell
Really?
you.
My
Yeah.
goodness.
For me, it's just like a way for me to connect to the internet. I never take phone calls. I
True.
rarely make
Actually,
phone
yeah, even
calls.
this was a WhatsApp call, not really a phone call, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's probably a spam call, right? If somebody's calling you on your phone.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And often,
Yeah.
since the introduction of the spam filters, it comes up and it says potential threat or
Yeah.
spam
Oh, we
on
don't
my.
have that in Canada yet,
Oh,
but you can
okay. Oh,
report
right.
spam though.
Yeah, that's a feature on my phone that when it calls me, it already knows who the number is. Like even if I don't have
Hmm.
it stored in my phone, and it'll
Awesome.
say spam reported potential threat, so I just block it
There
straight
you
away.
go. Well,
And
that's technology helping you out there
yeah,
instead of
definitely.
harming you.
Yeah, I'm like I don't know if you've seen Seinfeld, but I'm like George in that episode where he's screening calls from his girlfriend.
Oh
That's
yeah, I
me.
remember remember that. I was a big Seinfeld buff. I usually play it on the loop during Christmas time just to have
Yeah.
like some background sound if I'm
Do
doing
you
something.
do you celebrate Festivus?
Festivus.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
a
The
Festivus for
the
the rest
pole
of us.
instead of the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. There's so many of them, right? And I think Seinfeld's been doing his own series now and podcasts and things, although I haven't got much into it. I still think
Yeah,
of him as a
it's
stand-up guy.
yeah, his stand-up is good, but comedians in cars getting coffee, I
Oh
love
yeah.
that show. If you haven't seen that, that is
I think I
hilarious.
caught maybe one of them, but is he still doing that during pandemic?
Uh
That's
I
going to be a bit
I think
challenging.
he was, or they, I mean,
Ah,
they're on Netflix. I think
I'm going
you
to
can
write
pick them
that
up
down.
there.
I'm going to check
Yeah.
that out. Yeah. Yeah, because I usually try to find stuff that I can binge because during Christmas you
Yeah.
try not to sit in front of a machine, but you're around doing stuff, right? So then you just have it running as loud as possible
Yeah. So have
as
you
you make.
in how long have you been in Canada? You've been in there forever, or yeah.
Yes, it's been, I came here in 2001 actually, so it's been almost 22 years now. It's hard to believe, but yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's been a
And
while.
and what do you do there? What's your role?
So I actually have my own firm called Go Emerald. It used to be a digital transformation delivery firm pre-pandemic, and during pandemic, we've pivoted that into a leadership plus design plus innovation firm. So I do a lot of work now with startups that are, during pandemic, a lot of these AI, ML type of firms came up. There's a lot of interest now in circular economy and responsible AI.
Hmm,
And
yeah.
that's really my area, niche area, because coming from that world where I understand how enterprise technology is built and deployed. So sometimes very hands and deep, sometimes building structures that companies need, processes and people and capabilities around that. You mix it all up and you go, well, how did we get here? Like, how are we in this position where we're dying and like the planet's gonna die and
Yeah.
who made these decisions, right? When you reflect back on some of that and your own part in that, quite frankly, right? You
Yeah.
had the option, or I had the option of standing up and saying, well, maybe that's not the right decision, right? But maybe somehow didn't feel either empowered or didn't find the right person to talk to about it. So during pandemic, I really found myself asking a lot of those type of questions, right? What is the impact of my own work?
Yeah.
And what is the future of Go Emerald, right? So you could jump on the digital transformation bandwagon and implement. But what is the end result of that, right? To
And what
people, to the planet.
yeah, what's your legacy, that you're gonna
Exactly.
leave as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And even before you get to the legacy point, right? Like situation that we're in, you don't hit net zero by 2050. You don't have a future, you don't have a legacy,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
even net zero, I've come to realize is not the right conversation to be had, right? Because net zero is saying I'm just making it all equal, right? I'm
Yeah.
equating
And
the,
they're just playing with the figures, playing with the numbers,
it's a numbers
not
game, yeah.
yeah, and not actually coming up with a real solid plan of,
Yeah.
oh hey guys, like there's a bit of wasteland over there. Can we transform that into a
Yeah.
forest? Can we bring the birds back? Can we
Yeah.
bring the insects back?
No, it's not
Like,
about bringing it back. It's about actively fixing the mistakes that we've made, right? To
yeah.
have that incremental impact. And that's why I've come to respect and appreciate circular economy conversations a lot more
So
because I'm convinced you can't change like one thing at a
yeah.
time and expect to make a bigger impact. You have to look at the entire ecosystem, right?
So this is actually a brand new concept to me. I
Oh, yeah.
know nothing about the
Oh,
circular
wow.
economy. So it was in your email to me that
Yeah.
that was the first time I'd actually even heard that term. So
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm ready. Like as a novice, you just tell me everything about it.
Absolutely. So circular economy started with and the first
Sorry,
time I heard of it. Oh,
sorry.
bless you. Bless you. You okay?
Yeah.
It's getting chilly everywhere. Uh-oh, second one. Your sister's missing you now. But yeah, it's like if you haven't heard of Ellen MacArthur Foundation,
No.
I highly recommend that you. It's like one of those things, right? That's very underrated, but once you hear about it, you can't stop not learning about it. So they came up with this concept, I believe, of circular economy a number of years ago, about reuse, recycle, and refresh, right? So it's all about looking at what you're putting out and how to continue to reuse it. So for example, you might buy a toaster, right? It's like
Yeah.
pretty cheap these days, right? Make your toast 20 times a day for a year, it's going to break down. what do you do? Used to be people go and get it fixed, right? Because it used to be
Yeah,
quite expensive. Now, just toss it and
yeah,
get a new
yeah.
one, right? And before it used to be metal and this and that, right? Like I have this one family traditional toaster that's like actually made of metal. It's heavier than anything in your kitchen.
And you used to be able to get spare parts for those things as well. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Absolutely right, right? And now more and more things are made of plastic, right? Because it's cheaper. However, it's not recyclable, right? And that's also created a lot of lack of equity in the world because if you think about it, you throw out your toaster where you live, landfill doesn't exist in your country. It's going to end up somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's created this whole thing of the quality of life in certain countries is so much more different than the life you and I live. So there's all these other
Mm.
dynamics that are attached to it. So as they were doing this research, they realized like those 3 R's are just actually not enough. You need to look at things a lot more actively to say, how am I actually creating value, right? What does your value chain look like for your business? But beyond your business, if you look at your, it used to be supply chain, right? I now use the term supply ecosystems because pandemic chain means something else is gonna, one thing breaks down, the whole thing
Yeah.
falls apart, right?
Yeah.
The
And
concept of a
that's,
chain.
yeah, I was going to say, and that is something that has happened that we're feeling the effects of here.
Yeah,
And
everywhere, right? Everywhere in the
yeah,
world.
I kind of feel like the pandemic has had an effect on the supply chain.
Oh
But
yeah.
also there's, they're quite happy to blame the pandemic when it might even be,
No, it's
Bre-
all the risks that
it might
existed,
be
right?
Brexit as well.
Oh gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a mishmash of all those things, right? If you think
Yeah.
about it. So we in North America don't think much about Brexit, right? Because we're not
No. Yeah.
technically, unless you're doing business with someone in UK, you're not technically impacted by it. However, if you think about it, these were all the risks that were building up for a while, right? It was the probability of them actually happening. Even Brexit, the way it happened, right? If you read about it, oh, it's not going to happen, right? I'm just going to do this poll or this vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
And who's going to be stupid enough to vote for Brexit? When look at what happened, right? It's misgauged probabilities versus what the impact of that probability is actually,
The
right?
yeah, the feeling in the country was
Yeah,
totally, it was totally different to what they thought
yeah.
the outcome was going to be.
But think about it this way, right? And then Trump happens. Like, what's going on, right? What's going
Yeah.
on in the world? And it's one of those things, right? When you're just living your daily life, you don't realize some of these things, the risks, the way that they could tack on, because you think, yeah, what are the chances all the planets are going to line up this way, right? But this is exactly what happened with the pandemic. And you could call it black swan, but I don't like that term at all because you had the choice to look at that risk and have a mitigation plan in place. Because how many companies did not even have a business continuity plan in place, right, for the safety of their employees when we went in lockdown
Yeah.
situation? How does that even happen?
Even education as well.
Yeah,
It was just
nightmare.
on the fly, super agile, and it was,
Yeah,
well, do we know if these students have the ability at home to connect to their teachers in the classrooms? Do
yeah,
we know if the teachers have the skills to connect to their students? And
yeah,
the answer for a lot of that was no. There was a massive shortage of laptops and technology, internet connectivity,
yeah,
and a serious lack of skills outside of the computing
absolutely.
department, where you might have had a PE teacher or a history, English,
Gosh,
maths
yeah.
teacher. They had no idea how to manage,
No,
Zoom
and
calls.
trust me, I've been on like a few calls now with professors, right? Because some of my network is educational professionals, and it
Yeah,
used to be I would have to go and drive and meet them for coffee, which was nice, right? Because it's a little different network than your business, so you appreciate that. But then at the same time, during pandemic, you could see those people struggling with Teams, with Zoom, and you go, "My God, I feel for the students right now," because like there needed to be a bit more of a plan in upskilling the teachers, right? This entire time it just
yeah,
didn't exist, and some teachers
and
chose Zoom, and
they've been playing catch up the whole time. And then you think of
yeah,
the examination boards as well.
God, yeah,
On top of that, they come up with sort of an estimated system,
yeah,
things called Q tags, where yeah, did the kids produce the work that they were meant to? No. Would they have if everything was normal? Yes. So give them the grade. But then you have the problem
Yeah,
where the student, they develop apathy, and also when they come back to the classroom in the normal
exactly.
circumstances, they go, well, you gave it to me last year, I'm not going to
Yeah,
do
but what is
anything.
normal anymore, right? Like
Yeah,
some people don't want their kids actually going back to school, right? So
yeah,
it's that whole thing, right? So there's all kinds of different stakeholders in this space. So some of the startups that I've met more recently in education space, they've been companies that have been around for like 8 or 9 years, and I'd never heard of them because they were struggling. I was surprised they survived for
mm,
this long pre-pandemic. No one would give them time of day, right? Like you go and ask someone, I've created this really interesting tool. Your kid could study, I don't know, botany at home without a lab. Well, I don't care. I'll just send them to school.
yeah, yeah,
I don't want to pay money here. School's teaching them that already. And you go and talk to school, and school goes, well, no, we already spent time and money and energy and investments in hiring the teacher, having the lab, and parents want their kids here and la la la. Now, all of a sudden, these companies are million-dollar companies and they've got
yeah.
users like there's no tomorrow, right? Because people don't know how kids are going to learn the skill anymore.
Yeah, and they also don't know when the next lockdown will be, as well. It's
Yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah.
totally unpredictable. Well, sort of unpredictable. You can
Yeah.
kind of see it coming, through the media.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can pick up the hints and kind of look
Yeah.
at
I
the.
think certain countries in Europe are already in lockdown, right? If I'm not
Yeah,
wrong.
Austria has gone,
Yeah.
into a full lockdown.
Yeah.
Germany and Austria have, mandated
Yeah.
every single person must be vaccinated as well.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
getting there in Canada about vaccines, but some of the policies are changing to be the opposite. I think we now have a rule where if your flight is under 75 hours, you don't actually need certain checks and balances at the airport that were in place. And I'm sitting there going, I don't care if it's a 5-minute flight. I need that checks and balance in place because I'm going to be sharing that air. It only takes a second for me to
yeah.
become infected, right? So it's
Mm.
it's quite interesting how some of those decisions are being made, and that's where policy, people, businesses, it's all to your earlier point, like a mishmash, right? It's all colliding. And it's
Yeah.
anybody's guess. Like you don't have any data to prove any of this. Well, how are you going to make decisions and who's in power to
Yeah,
make those decisions?
that's the other question. Who is in power? Like,
Yeah,
who can we trust? Who are our leaders? Like, who can
yeah,
we look to for guidance? It's not as simple as, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you'd know who to look to. You'd look to like either the Queen or the King or the Prime Minister
yeah.
or the President, and
Very
you'd go,
traditional
"Ye-
power dynamics, right?
yeah,
It's sort of that hierarchy model, right? Same as in companies, you hear about great resignation, right? I've been having a lot of
yeah,
conversations about people about what I think Ewan calls it capacity development. And the more research I've done in competency versus capacity versus capability, I'm
mm,
convinced we shouldn't be talking about competencies or capacities. We should be talking about capability, right? Because
yeah,
at its core, capabilities define what's special about you as a human being and where your skill set could map to the future things that we need to do in the world. So responsible AI, right? Everybody wants to go and grab those certifications from the big tech, right? And
yeah."
that would qualify you to go get that job. Well, that's super scary. That's super scary because you're going to your earlier point, these people are going to make decisions. They're going to become leaders, right? Because I don't know if you've heard of Peter Principle.
No, no.
So in 1980s, I'm forgetting his full name, but Peter
Yeah,
wrote a
yeah.
book called Peter Principle, right? And the whole idea is the way that we promote people in the commercial businesses
Is it
is,
we, we promote them to the point of incompetency?
yes, there you go. You've heard of
Okay,
it. Yeah.
okay, okay. I
So the
didn't
whole
know that's
idea
what it was called.
being, yeah, but the whole
Yeah,
idea is that how did you get promoted, right? You did something well,
yeah,
so we gave you something else to do, which is more
yeah.
responsibility. See if you could do that now. But it's backwards, right? Because,
Mm,
and sometimes now people will tell you, right, to have the job you want, you need to be displaying that skill. Well, that's bullshit too, because that creates inequity.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's how long do you continue to do that for, and what's kind of the roadmap in
And
the industry?
yeah, and also like maybe in your current role, you're not displaying the
Yeah.
behaviors or
Yeah,
whatever that they need for this other role
exactly.
because it's not part of your current role.
No, think about it, right? Like a simple example, a developer becomes a manager of developers. Right? How does that actually work? So your colleagues
Yeah,
like you and agree with you all the time and you become a manager. I don't know, right? management and leadership during pandemic, it's become clear that it's a whole discipline on its own, right? It's a
Yeah.
capability with multiple different items underneath it, right? Competencies, as they like to call it. So some of these terms are very related and people use it interchangeably. The way Ewan likes to use capacity development, I think it has competencies and capabilities built under it, but they're assuming people are taking care of that in companies and schools, right? But they're actually not. Because capacity development's all about, okay, so world is heading towards AI, data, all these things. Our companies and countries and the whole system, the whole world, are they supporting people to develop those skill sets? Well, sure. I have the certification that I just put out as Microsoft or as Google or whoever, right?
Yeah.
And this will teach people that skill set. Great. That's capacity development. Great. But it's not capability development because those people can't just use that one skill to solve the world's problems, right? You need
Mm,
responsible AI so you don't create another US election influenced by Facebook
mm.
inadvertently, right? How do you prevent those situations? How are you going to prevent climate change from getting worse instead of better?
So how do we promote capability development?
That's the $1 million question right now, right? So there's a lot of startups that are working out in what use cases, in what parts of the world, in what type of lack of equity type situations, culture-wise, how are some of these conversations being had? So I think where we are currently is we have identified a lot of gaps as a society, right? So how you get paid is a perfect example, right? There's a lot of pay inequity.
Yeah.
If you know the person that's hiring, and you've worked with them before, you might end up with a better salary and that job at the same time.
Yeah, or if you're a more aggressive negotiator, or more confident, or
Yeah,
more.
like
me-
confidence gets confused for competence and
Yeah, yeah.
capability all the time, right? So it's one of those things, right? If you look younger, you may not get a leadership position. Like that's the other
Mm.
thing. But then the other side of
That's
that
why.
is,
That's why I grow my beard.
oh my goodness, that's why I don't color my hair. You can see some
Yeah.
white hair. No, I'm just kidding. I couldn't care less. I'm not putting poison in my hair. That's that other choice. But it's one of those things, right? And you will find actually to that point, a lot of women who are no longer coloring their hair, right? Especially during pandemic, because in person before there used to be the social pressure of
Yeah.
looking a certain way if you want to be taken seriously, especially at work. So you got to be wearing certain type of clothes. Your hair's got to be a certain way, right?
I found it very difficult leaving leaving my office, going back
Yeah.
into the workplace, and having to wear a shirt again. Where I spent 9 months wearing a t-shirt and being quite relaxed.
Yeah.
Also here I was quite well hydrated. I could have a cup of coffee
Oh
whenever I
yeah,
wanted,
absolutely.
but there I'm not allowed to have a drink in the classroom. And
Oh
it's
really? Oh my goodness,
yeah
that's horrible. And you're
yeah
talking in the classroom. You need a drink.
yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of benefits to teaching
Yeah.
remotely.
Absolutely.
Um,
And I'm sure your students probably agree with that too, right? I
yeah,
hired 15 students to work with me this year, which has never happened before, by the way. And a lot of them are either like MBAs or master students. Some of them are bachelor students. And they all agreed that they don't want to go back to the classes. They want to do, at the minimum, some sort of a hybrid model.
yeah,
Because then they can see their friends and at least there's some group activity. They're not completely missing out on that human interaction, right? But if you mandate a full lockdown situation, then you don't know what you're missing either if you haven't experienced it before,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I wonder, taking that forward, say if
Hmm.
we were in lockdown in perpetual, in forever, like
Yeah,
say from
gosh.
now, we're in a lockdown for like the next 10 years for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Say the internet and the infrastructure is capable of handling
Hmm.
everything that we need to do. So we don't need to leave our houses. We don't need to travel anywhere.
Yeah.
That cuts emissions globally because there's no cars, there's no planes.
Not necessarily, right?
No,
Because if you think about it, and this is why circular
there,
economy is
there
more
would be an
important.
increase in electricity generation. Is that it?
Well, that too, right? But it's you got to look at the entire ecosystem. So if you're in a lockdown situation, what you are well, let me take it another way. So if you end up at a hospital, which a lot of people will because it's a pandemic at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the waste that the hospital is creating is actually doing more harm than you driving back and forth from your work. The
Okay.
carbon, right? So it depends on what metric you use, right? So carbon seems to be the metric right now, right? Carbon emission.
Yeah.
So if you only look at carbon, that hospital is doing way more harm than you driving back and forth from work. Because how
Ah.
many people go in and out, and you just like it becomes a numbers game, right? So you have to be very careful with even the metrics that you choose. You choose the wrong metric.
So I think that this is a result of us becoming aware that we're all connected globally.
Absolutely, right? So circular economy has really opened up my eyes, right? Because coming from that consulting background, and I think I've had a little bit different career than most people as well, because I left IBM probably about 8 years ago now, almost 8 years. And the whole goal of that was, well, I don't want to just do one industry, one type of work, right? Because technologies will come and go. But if you're always only
Mm.
solving financial services problem, then like it's changes your brain a certain way, right? It
Yeah.
forces you to think a certain way. But I wanted to look for things that are common across all the various industries. And that's not really a common career path in most traditional places for people, right? Most of us will choose a particular industry, a particular specialization, and we'll find our career paths around that ecosystem.
Yeah.
I wanted to look for digital transformation across multiple industries. So that gave me a chance to go and observe at least 25 companies in 9 different industries, right? And eventually a pandemic happens and you finally have a chance to sit down and you go, what was it like last 8 years? And you start writing some of the stuff down, any data that you have, any anecdotes and stories that you have, you start writing that down or run that through your mind, because rather than just go, 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 you're
Yeah.
actually taking time to reflect now, which is what's happened with a lot of people, right? That's why mental health is actually an issue, because people have actually sat down and said, what have I accomplished in my life?
Yeah, yeah. What am I doing? I
Right.
had a moment like that earlier today.
Yeah.
Just on a personal level
It
where,
happens a lot more these days,
yeah,
right?
I was recording a video to look for a new job, and I
Yeah.
had to answer a few questions.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I was talking about myself, and I in between the edits that I edited out, I said. Yeah, so in all my spare time, when I'm not either with my family or at work, I spend my
Yeah.
time, completing short courses to get certificates.
Yeah.
And then I just sat there and I went, and that is probably the saddest thing I've ever said in my entire life. And then I just sat
That's a
there and
perspective though, right? They put
yeah, I was like,
perspective
what
on
am I
that, right? Like
doing?
this is the difference, I'll tell you. Like that's why I don't like it when they send people those do your own video type things. It's a lazy person's way of hiring, because
Yeah,
it's not a conversation. So like you right now, you and I are having a conversation. I have a perspective, you say something,
yeah,
and I go, oh, I never thought about it that way. What you just said to me, you're doing certifications, that tells me that you're a lifelong learner.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
beautiful mindset. Not many people have that mindset, right? People
yeah,
rather go play a game, right? Or read a sci-fi book or whatever else. But you're saying you're learning new things and you're learning
yeah.
diverse things, which,
All the time, like different
right,
topics as well.
right.
Yeah.
So you are a curious person by nature, and but there's nothing to be sad about. I guess the sad part is it's in front of a screen all the time,
Yeah.
right? But that's not all you're doing, right? You're recording this video with me right now,
Yeah.
and
I
that
mean, the
in itself,
one of the reasons, or personal reason that I started this podcast was because I have two young daughters.
oh yeah,
One is 2.5, and one is like almost 8 months old.
wow, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm 40 next week, and I
My
thought,
goodness, congratulations.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. So I thought, um, if I have this collection of videos
yeah,
online that they can look at when I'm
yeah,
gone, when I'm dead, and they can figure, like sometimes it's difficult for us to think, who are our parents? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? You have an idea of mum and dad, but you don't know
yeah.
who that person was as an individual or what their
Yeah,
history
because you
was.
couldn't really understand, right? You couldn't really grasp at the same level. You weren't an adult. You couldn't talk to them like an adult.
Yeah, yeah,
And most parents don't, right? Like my mother passed away 6 years ago, but she would always like call me the same way that she would call me when we were kids, right? She uses a
yeah,
certain tone, she's gonna yell at you in 2 minutes. right? But she's going to yell at you like you're 2 years old.
Yeah.
She won't treat you like an adult. So it's great to give that glimpse to them, to your
Yeah.
point, what it's like to have adult conversations in
That's
2021.
yeah, that I mean that's what I wanted to sort of to leave them.
Yeah,
You know, so
it's
when I
amazing.
started
Yeah,
on this journey, I thought, I'm going to keep on going for as long as I can,
yeah,
have all these conversations. If I develop some sort of community or fan group or earn a living off
yeah,
of this, that's brilliant. But if
yeah.
not, if the only thing I achieve is that my daughters get to sit there and watch this
Yeah.
when I'm gone, when I'm old or whatever, then that's brilliant,
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Paul, this is what's different about pandemic, right? The creator
Yeah,
economy is not driven by what ROI, return on investment, I'm getting from this time. Anybody who's stuck in that traditional mindset before you even undertake a project will go in that business-like way, right?
yeah,
What return am I going to get from this? Who's the customer for this? And that's it. That's the death of a creative idea. That's the
yeah,
death of
yeah.
innovation, right? Why would you do this? Why would anybody invest in a circular economy, that a carbon extraction plant? Because it takes $10 million to build one. What return am I getting from it? Nothing, right? Technically, there's no money coming from it. It's
Yeah,
actually a money pit. But
yeah,
you'll get to
yeah,
live longer. Is that important to you?
yeah. Hopefully all of the species, in the planet that are here now will
Yeah.
will still be here for your great grandchildren.
Yeah,
Like
but
there's,
to be honest with you, Paul, like that's also wrong. Like that's my pet peeve now, right?
is it
To make every species live longer. Like, if you think back, dinosaurs don't exist now.
true?
What right do we have as humans to say, nope, Earth should follow my agenda and every animal that I
Yeah,
see must continue to exist because I like the colors on that bird. Mosquitoes can go
that
kill themselves, I don't
yeah.
care. Right? But like, who are we to
Yeah,
judge?
no,
But
that's a great point. But
yeah.
I think what I meant by that exactly was, if you think of like the dodo, or you
Oh
think of
yeah,
like other
exactly. Yeah.
animals that we've caused direct
We've caused, yeah.
yeah,
That I
exactly.
agree,
So
yeah.
like, the natural world, like,
Yeah.
try not to be involved in it
Yeah, but
at
it's
all,
become so
because
entangled now though, Paul. Like
yeah,
how can you tell what's natural and what's not anymore, right?
it's
So
it's almost like you see, huge chunks of Africa or different
yeah,
areas, they've got fences around them.
yeah.
They're basically just large parks now. Like, it's not.
Well, but they're not though, right? Like so there's poachers and there's all kinds of stuff
Yeah.
happening there which you can't track. So that's still human activity, even the act of putting a fence around it. Like not, I'm
Oh,
not
I
saying
I
you
I
shouldn't.
meant like the
Yeah.
animals don't have the freedom to roam and go
Oh
wherever
yeah,
they want.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, what is natural now? What
Yeah,
is
it's like
nature? We've
have you ever heard of I think it's a short story, right? Butterfly Effect. I read it back in
Okay.
like eighth grade or something. It just
I've
came
seen a
to me as
movie. I've seen a movie called
it's
Butterfly
a
Effect.
movie as well,
Yeah.
right? So the whole premise is, and I don't want to ruin it for you if you want to go back and
No, go
remind
ahead.
yourself what
Go
it
ahead.
is, but it's a group of time travelers, right? So there's this business in future where people can go in past using a time machine
Yeah.
and hunt dinosaurs, right? That's kind of the business model for this particular company, and they've created a particular path because there's some calculations that have been done.
Yeah.
You can kill that specific animal, it won't have impact on the timeline, right? That's kind of the deal. So this guy goes in, and long story short, things go wrong. His foot goes out of the path, and he
S-
puts his foot
Yeah.
up, and
Steps
then
on a
like a
butterfly.
yeah, and the butterfly's dead now, right? So it's like, oh, just don't tell anybody. Let's just go back.
Yeah, it's only a butterfly. No big deal.
Yeah, and the guy who went back was actually running for like prime minister, president, mayor, something like that, right? So he comes back and the world is completely different.
Yeah.
So from his point of view, the impact to his life and everyone else around him from killing that one butterfly, it's just like a snowball effect or butterfly
But we
effect,
would
whatever you want to call
we
it.
would get we would become crippled by anxiety if we had to make every choice that way. It's
No,
like,
and that's why
yeah,
AI is so bittersweet is the best way to put it, right? Because it can do that. Humans can't do that, but AI
yeah,
can. It can look at multiple data sets and it can't make decisions. But should it make those decisions, right?
mm,
So it's one of those things. If you have a autonomous vehicle, right, a car that drives itself on the road,
yeah,
is it okay for it to kill a cat?
yeah.
Because
Yeah, are we approaching the trolley problem?
exactly, there you go, right?
Yeah,
So trolley problem is a human problem and it has two or three dimensions, right? But you look at autonomous cars, you multiply that trolley problem by 100 because you've
mm.
got people driving themselves, there's people walking around, there's animals walking around, there's other cars on the road, right? All
I
kinds of things going on.
I think the only way to fix it is if everybody at the exact same time has an autonomous vehicle. I don't think you can have this hybrid system
But
where,
you're not going to get there then.
yeah,
It's like, think about it. We can't even convince people to get vaccinations. Right? So
yeah,
it's this kind of an interesting one, right? Like I posted a poll on the other day on LinkedIn, and I thought this is like just a fun little poll, right? And it started with an opinion. I don't know if you've seen it because I know we're connected. So
yeah,
the poll basically said we all agree that pronouns, a little thing like pronouns, right? Doesn't
yeah.
harm you from using pronouns. Like
No,
no harm would come of me if somebody knows I'm a she, her, right?
yeah, no.
So if I'm using pronouns, I'm making the world more inclusive, right? And the poll basically was, would you put your pronouns on your resume? Why or why
I
not?
saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. I
And
remember it.
oh my God, like in half hour, there were so many comments saying,
Yeah,
we don't agree. Like we don't all agree. And at first I read it and I said, I don't know what that comment actually means. And by the time the third person commented with the same thing, I thought, oh, I know what they're talking about. They're not talking about the poll. They're talking about the way that I phrased it. I
right.
said, we all agree, as opposed to I'm of the
Oh,
opinion,
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I changed it. I edited it to say, okay, well, I'm replacing we all agree to I am of this opinion. But people kept coming back to comment on that opinion
Yeah,
rather than,
yeah.
right? So it's quite interesting how people get so politically heavy. I didn't imagine that was a politically charged statement.
How did you not know? How did you
Or-
not know that that was going to be?
I guess I
I
don't,
could have,
I really,
I
eh?
I know that that is like,
Oh my goodness.
it's not just because of
To
the,
be okay, let me clarify actually. I see what you're saying. Yes, I do
yeah,
know that it's a
yeah,
political charge statement,
yeah,
to be fair. But I didn't think on LinkedIn it would be that statement,
yeah,
politically charged statement, because to your earlier point, on LinkedIn, you're there to promote your work.
yeah,
And a lot of the times, and in certain circles, in certain societies, we're taught to leave that at home, like religion, politics, don't bring those things to work.
yeah, yeah.
So it's quite
I
interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that on LinkedIn that there have been quite a few posts about what is appropriate to put on LinkedIn now, and
Mm,
some people have said that 10 years ago LinkedIn
yeah.
was all about work and all about business, and I think, let me think, the post said something like, if you tell me that this isn't Facebook one more time, I'm going to lose it. Because
Yeah.
they said now LinkedIn is more open. I can put whatever I
Yeah,
want on
yeah.
here
It's
and
more
I can say,
authentic, right? Is the best way to put
yeah,
it. It's
yeah, yeah,
authentic, but it's also not real life yet, right?
yeah,
So it's definitely a lot more open, especially during pandemic. Like before pandemic, I was logging in once a week. And during pandemic, it's like coming out of your shell a little bit, right?
mm,
Because saying something in a room of five people is very different from saying it to the internet.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
definitely.
So it's one of those type of things where it really brought me out of my shell and it gave me a voice even because certain things that I wouldn't really say unless
Mm,
I was talking to you and you were my friend for the last 5, 6 years.
yeah,
Like I wouldn't say certain problems that I'm seeing at work, right? Even just this morning, I was having a conversation with people because HBR had this article, right? This VP trying to recruit, right? And they're looking to fill a transformational problem solving type of role. And the person who wrote the article presented a candidate to them. And the candidate thought they had great conversation because they got to ask all these questions of the VP and great, nice, and open conversation. But the VP who was hiring thought that this person was just super nosy and just had super annoying questions.
oh
They actually
wow,
put that in the quotes, super annoying questions.
oh wow,
But that's the issue, right? We're starting to have some of these open type conversations. You would never see an article like that on LinkedIn 10
yeah,
years ago, right? Like people wouldn't even think of writing one, but
mm,
it's a real challenge now. And I think the point that we miss is that it's actually the job design that's wrong there, right? So VP is not actually looking for a problem solver in that situation because problem solvers are strategic thinkers and they're going to ask you questions
yeah, yeah.
and you
He
have
was
to listen to
he
them.
was looking for a yes person.
Well, maybe, but
Yeah,
and like let's give them benefit of the doubt. Maybe they were looking for an implementer, right? Don't
mm,
question the decisions I've already made.
yeah,
Just go and find a plan to do it, right? How many times do people come to you and just go at work, right? Happens to me all the time too. Well, yeah, I want to do some strategic work, but I need to see plan and I need to see dates. What they're saying is I don't have patience or skill set, put that in brackets, to do the strategic work. But I just need to see a plan, right? Because I'm being
yeah,
paid to do this here. And that's how we're going back to circular economy and responsible AI. That's how you end up in those situations, right? Because you didn't take the time to actually think. Like, how about 2 seconds before we create the plan to think about what kind of impact this could have and what approaches are possible, right? And which one we should pick, quite frankly. Like, is it better to go and build toasters with plastic, or is it better to go back and use recycled metals or something to that effect? And maybe we should
Mm.
go back to that. Like, yeah, it's going to cost you more money now, short term, because we incentivize people short term. Is that a word? We incent people.
Yeah. No,
Incent
yeah,
people
it
short
made
term.
it made sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So it's quite interesting, right? How at the intersection of leadership, the business models, this is a business model conversation, right? How are you going to create value as a company? Because you're collecting revenue for a service or a product. And then how are you distributing that inside the company while also making the company profitable? Because shareholders also need to make money, right?
yeah,
So
that
it's quite
yeah,
interesting conversation.
that is very tricky. And how do you yeah, how do you share the wealth without
Yeah,
um
wealth, right? How you even
yeah,
define wealth is
yeah,
quite interesting.
how do you share profits
Yep, there you go.
um without coming across
Equitably, right?
yeah, without coming across as being a communist, or without, or
Yeah.
without
Just to be very honest with you, I
put
wonder if people still even worry about that, being seen as a
mm,
communist. Like, who cares?
I think
Planet won't be
so.
around anymore. Really?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
I think they do. I think there's a huge sort of there's like a divide between the
Mhm.
left and the right, and people have become kind
It's
of
very true, yeah.
polarized. And maybe they don't use the term communist anymore, but they use the term the
Mhm.
left.
Ah, I see
Um,
what you mean. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That poll had a lot of those terms. It's
yeah,
quite funny. Some people got really, and at first I thought maybe I should just report those to LinkedIn. And I thought, you know what? I'm actually going to leave it here
and see what
because
happens.
people need to see this, right?
Yeah, so that they don't become polarized, so that they see each other's
Yeah.
opinions. Yeah,
Yeah.
because technology is we find a space that we're comfortable in, and the
Yeah.
algorithm realizes that, and it keeps
Yeah.
pushing all that data towards us, and
Yeah.
then we become engulfed in that bubble.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And and then that's the effect of social media over the past
Yeah.
6 years or more.
Yeah, to be
um
honest, like I have to say, right, like I don't use Facebook that much anymore. But in past, when I was using Facebook, I did notice to your point, there was a bit of a bubble that was developing depending on
mm,
who first came to that post.
yeah,
And then their network came, and then their network came. So if something got toxic, it got really, really toxic, right? And
yeah,
that's the whole problem with the US election, the issue that happened. Because certain things where people were colluding and having some of these very, very strange conversations, they're just not even visible to other people, right? You would never know this is
yeah,
happening. Facebook might know, right, if they were watching it, but other people won't know. You and I may not know because we may not be interfacing with those type of topics. But on LinkedIn, my interaction with that post, because I was really watching it like a hawk, I was super worried, let me tell you, when some of those comments started pouring in. For a second, I thought, I don't know if this was a good idea. Should I delete this? Should I continue to interact with people on this post? Like, what is the consequence of this to me as an individual now on LinkedIn? But like you said, right, just keep going and see what
yeah,
happens.
yeah, see what happens, like let it play
Yeah.
out.
But at the same time, LinkedIn algorithm, I don't know if it's algorithm or if it's just my network, right? Because I have a
mm,
lot of open-minded, authentic people who speak openly about their ideas. So yes, it started off that night because I posted it in the middle of the night. So a lot of strange opinions came the first night, and I stopped commenting on them because I just wanted to see what would happen. Would
yeah.
they start talking to each other now? And they did. Like, it was getting worse in my position because I support inclusion, and some people who are threatened by it, like their friends were coming and they were having a whole conversation about it. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? In the
You
morning
stepped on the
though,
butterfly, didn't you?
yeah, I did. Then in the morning, other people came and someone actually said, Chris, another person that I'm connected to, kudos to him. He actually said, oh man, you stumbled into like a toxic part of LinkedIn here. And then a lot of other people came who felt differently and started
Yeah.
challenging these other people. And the conversation kind of got balanced a little bit.
Mm,
And then what I noticed a few days later, because the polls open for like 2 weeks, right? Still open.
yeah.
So But what ended up happening is when you go back to some of those people who were posting those very, very like, is it right wing? That's,
Could be, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Some of those comments started disappearing, especially the ones that were using derogatory terms.
So how why were they disappearing? Was it other
And that's what
people?
I'm wondering,
Yeah,
right?
okay,
So people
okay.
either got worried after they posted it in the middle of the night, because in the heat of the moment you said something,
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
they went back and deleted it
and went
themselves,
back and deleted it,
or
or could have been a fake profile, right?
could have been. Yeah.
Because a lot of those profiles had like less than 100 connections. And my hypothesis, I pay close attention to if somebody adds me or follows me and has less than 100 connections, right?
Yeah.
And the profile hasn't been around for very long and there's not a lot of people in common. Then you try
Mm.
not to disadvantage people who might be new, right? Because there's a lot of
Yeah,
people who are
yeah.
new to it and now are finding their way. But that's a challenge with
You
LinkedIn.
can generally you can tell the difference between a
Yeah,
genuine voice or not. So
exactly,
yeah.
right? That the way that they're engaging with the content and some of those things, right? But you have to take time to do that, right?
Mm.
And then the third would be they just saw some of my opinions and decided I wasn't anybody they wanted to interact and they blocked me, right? So one of those three things
Could
is
be,
happening. Yeah.
or somebody else has reported them and then
Oh,
their comment
that's
has been
true.
removed by LinkedIn.
Hmm.
That happens.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's very true. Yeah. But then the conversation becomes all unbalanced, right? Because somebody else had commented
yeah,
under that comment and now you
that
can't see the context.
yeah, it's the same sort of thing with canceling people or cancel culture.
Hmm.
Like on Twitter,
Interesting.
for example, you see like they extreme example, but they removed Alex Jones.
Oh,
So do you know who he is? Are you
no.
familiar?
I'm gonna go look him up now though.
Yes. So Alex Jones is, for lack of a better phrase, a conspiracy theorist and a
Oh,
controversial
I
figure.
know him. Is he the guy
Yeah.
that's selling vitamins or something?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
heard
does sell
about him.
vitamins. Yeah.
Yeah, during
Um,
Trump time, I think I heard of him because he was
yeah.
a supporter, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was a big Trump supporter,
Oh, right, right, right.
and he
Yeah.
had he could communicate with that camp as well and get information from
Yeah,
them,
he
and
used to get people riled up and
very
stuff.
riled up
Right.
because the
Yeah.
way he would do his show is like
Yeah.
he's like this, rah! Like he's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
passionate.
Pitchforks.
Yeah, yeah. So he was appealing to a certain kind of mindset,
Oh, right.
and he said some things that turned out to be completely false. Like,
Yeah.
and there was a big controversy to do with the Sandy Hook shootings,
Ooh,
and he said that that Sandy Hook was like a red flag moment, and it was all a setup, and nobody really died, and
my goodness.
yeah. So for the parents of the children who were killed,
Yeah.
that's serious thing to go out and say, and then he has all those followers and they believe him. So LinkedIn got rid of him and got rid of
Hmm.
sorry, not like yeah, LinkedIn, Facebook, everything like came
Yeah.
together,
Twitter. Yeah.
and yeah, got rid of him off YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So he's since apologized, but when you remove that voice, no matter how crazy,
That's actually can have a backfiring effect, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because then where does that person go? Do they go underground?
Yeah.
Do they become
No,
more extreme?
they're gonna create their own very biased platform,
Yeah, and that has
right?
happened. There's another version of YouTube that's cropped up for people
Yeah.
like him.
Mm.
I think it's called Brand NewTube, and that's where they all are now. So that's
My
like,
goodness, that's kind of scary, isn't it?
yeah,
What are
yeah,
they cooking up over there?
all sorts of flat Earth theories.
Well, I mean, if it's just selling vitamins to each other, then I don't really care.
Yeah, but what's in the vitamins? Like, what's
What
making
the
them all
you're
crazy?
it's okay. Oh yeah, that's true. I never thought of that.
Yeah,
Neurotransmitters or whatever else.
yeah,
You're absolutely right, actually, because selling a placebo product to someone, maybe they're just naive and they'll learn their lesson the second time. But selling them something that's actually doing them harm,
yeah.
that's impacting entire families and neighborhoods. And ooh, yeah, yeah. I haven't even thought of Alex Jones in a while, and I think it's the consequence of Trump just going away, quite frankly.
Mm. Yeah,
A lot
I
of these
kind
people
of
had a lot of power.
yeah, when Trump was in power and just
Yeah.
before he left,
Yeah.
I was kind of feeling on edge, like,
Yeah, no,
because
I agree with you. Same here.
yeah, like the
Like
news
getting under
media,
your skin, but it's like you don't really
yeah,
know why, kind of thing.
it was like 24/7
Yeah.
non-stop for like 5 years straight,
Yeah.
and it was Trump, 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 Trump everywhere. To the fact
Yeah. Like
where
you
like
try to watch a comedy show or Stephen Colbert or something,
yeah,
and even he's all Trump and you're like, "Hi, can I get a catch a break?"
yeah, and it was a lot like to deal
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
to the
And how many
point
times
where
do you hear about it now?
now like you don't hear from him, and I'm like, I wonder how
Yeah.
that guy's
No,
doing.
he's making some investments, right? I think like I subscribe to Dealbook. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
And he has created venture capital firms and whatever else now to try and create because he has a lot of data. It was a data
Yeah.
business, if you think about it, right? It
Mm.
was all about data and how to use data to influence people to do whatever
He
he wants.
he's also started his own social network.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So
Is it
that's the
Trump
same
Trump
thing.
voice or something to that effect?
True Voice or something, or
I forget,
yeah.
right? But it's gonna have some interesting consequences, right? Because Facebook has reputation that it has now, and
Mm.
people who were addicted to that, if they don't feel like using Facebook anymore, then they're gonna go someplace else. And where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Right? So
Interesting.
it's
Do
quite
you
interesting.
think do you think he's going to come back? I think that like
Not in
I
politics.
foresee that what's going to happen in the United States is that either Joe Biden will retire before his full term, or he'll
Oh, you
make
think
it,
so?
yeah,
Mm.
possibly, or he'll make it to the full term. But then in the re-election process, I think Trump is going to come back, and I think Trump is going to landslide it.
But Trump is really aged at this point, and there
Yeah.
are some serious concerns about his mental health, right? So,
Yep.
yes, he has a lot of supporters, but he also burned a lot of those supporters. I
Mm,
think about it, farmers supported him, right? Coal, whatever, people who work in fossil fuels supported him.
yeah.
And there's a lot more information now, even from the right wing and left wing both, right? People now believe in climate change because they're seeing it. Like I don't know if you've heard, BC, which is the Western Canada. It's
British
just
Columbia.
horrible. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you have you seen some of those pictures? I could not have photoshopped
No,
them for a movie better, like
no,
in that sense, right? It's
no.
apocalyptic.
Didn't realize that there was issues over there.
Oh gosh, this past week, and it's not the first time this year that's happened, right?
So what's happened over there? Is it
So it's just the roads have been washed off. It's floods, basically.
whoa? And they've just the water's just taken the roads away. Like
And like I've seen some pictures where there's a bridge, right? And the bridge is basically gone. You've got a zigzag road, and there's a truck sitting in the ditch.
whoa.
And some of the
Yeah.
roads were flat, right? Flat ground, and the ground's just split open. I
Yeah.
don't
It's
even
just
know how that happens. Right?
it's generally it's because what happens is the water makes a sort of like a little
Oh yeah, like a
tunnel or a spring that
whirlpool
goes
type. Yeah,
underneath,
that makes
and
sense.
it takes the supporting soil away,
Yeah,
and all of
it's
a
washing
sudden
everything away with the
it
pressure.
just
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's just amazing, right? And I have some friends there. I used to back in my early Accenture days, used to do a lot of coast to coast traveling, right? Back when it was cool to be on a plane twice a week.
Yeah.
Don't do that anymore, and don't look forward to it anymore. But
So
it's
where would you go? Because there's only one place that I know in British Columbia, and that's Kamloops.
oh
You
yeah,
familiar with that,
yeah,
Kamloops?
yeah. But that's
Um,
like that's not really the city area though, right? Like that's
yeah,
more like a little bit outskirts of the area. So the thing about Vancouver, BC in general is it's actually a very small area. People don't realize that. And in that small area, there's a lot of packed population and there's a lot of cities, right, that are
yeah.
kind of very jam-packed together.
Okay.
So in that way, and then you go from like north to south, it's very different as well, right? So you've got Whistler, which is mountains and ice and all that kind of stuff. And you've got tons of nature there.
Yeah.
It's a coastal area, right? There's a lot of parks. So it's got very diverse, what's the word I'm looking for? Not ecosystem, but uh, biodiversity type of
Yeah.
thing, right? The
Like
words escaping me
a
now.
very rich biodiversity and landscapes.
Yeah, like more than what you would see. Like I live in Toronto, which is the East Coast, right? You
Yeah.
don't see that much of that in East Coast. West Coast, for whatever reason, is more biodiverse. It's got like very easy for you to travel 1 hour and you're going to end up in Whistler Mountains. So you can go and snowboard. And within half hour, you could drive and you could go and climb mountains, right? You could go and do that.
It sounds beautiful.
It is
So
beautiful.
where I'm located here, we have a place called the Vancouver Quarter,
Ah, okay.
because the guy Vancouver, I think it was his name,
Oh,
was from here, and he
oh,
went and founded
you're gonna
Vancouver.
laugh. I never knew that there was a it makes sense, right? A place could be named after a person. It never occurred to me that there was a person called Vancouver
Yeah.
before this moment,
Yeah, I think
but it
he's
makes perfect
in fact
sense.
there's a statue. I'll post it. I have
Ah,
loads of pictures of it. I'll
wow.
post the picture of the
Yeah,
Vancouver
looking
Quarter on
forward
here.
to
So
it.
if you watch this back, I'll put it up there at this
Yeah,
point.
awesome. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
This area used to be it used to be called Bishop's Lynn, like hundreds of
Mm,
years ago, and then it became King's Lynn in
yeah.
Norfolk. And hundreds of years ago, it used to be the largest, most busiest port in the whole of what was the old
Wow.
United Kingdom. But yeah, it's so we have like a medieval sector here in this town, and
Amazing.
yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, very historic that way.
Yeah, it's
Very
lovely.
cool. And Vancouver's kind of like that, right? So there's a gaslight district. I think that's what it's called still.
Okay.
So you walk in and because you don't see those electric cables, right? That you
Yeah.
normally see, you'll see literally gas lamps.
Okay.
And it
Yeah.
would be like a brick road and people could walk around in the evening and there's a lot of restaurants. So it's
Like
that,
in Mary Poppins.
yeah, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? It feels a little bit like being in Britain, probably.
Yeah, they had before electric lighting, you would have a man whose job it was to go and turn all those
Oh
on,
yeah, that's right.
and
Like
light them every
with
night.
whatever that's called, right? The fire thingy.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. It was before my time. But yeah, like a kerosene soaked thing.
Like
You go
lamps,
light
yeah,
all the
little
lamps. Yeah.
torches, and go
Yeah.
and sort them
Gosh,
out.
I can't even imagine that.
What a
But
time to
yeah,
be alive back then. Like obviously not great for healthcare, not great for,
no, your
poverty and
lifespan was like
technology.
you're lucky if you hit 50, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it's like the opportunity, right? And that's partially the point of this, right? Where we're heading as a society, nobody can even guess.
Like where are we heading? Like are we heading to a future where all of our time is spent learning whatever we want
Yeah.
online, without.
Do you have resources to do that though? Like think about it, right? To your point, as an individual, if everything that you could do as a job is automated and
Yeah.
AI can make all those decisions, and let's pretend
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
second it's super responsible and you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Where does your time as a human being go?
Recreation,
Yeah,
art,
yeah,
learning, fitness,
yeah. And how do
making
you then
yeah.
gain wealth to support that lifestyle? Is it
Yeah,
just a birthright now to have
yeah,
recreation, right?
that's the thing, isn't it? Like,
And then at some point
do
the AI goes, well, yeah, I don't know what these people are.
yeah, do we receive some sort of universal basic income to keep
Yeah.
us all alive? Is
And where does that money come from, right? Like think about that. Because a lot
yeah.
of countries, I almost said companies, countries don't have the same level of resources, right? So
So like on a worldwide scale, you make it
yeah.
even for everybody.
Oh,
You
how are
bring
you going to do that? And who should do that? And why should they do that?
yeah,
Think about it, right? Like in all those sci-fi movies, right? Think about Star Trek
yeah,
and Star Wars. Like they've got some kind of a UN thing.
yeah.
UN doesn't have any power right now. Are you joking me?
No.
They're more like mediators, right?
Mm,
Like, can UN actually go and say, okay, COP26, everybody shut down your coal factories? Could UN do that? No, of course not. If they could, they would have done it by now,
yeah.
right? So it's one of those things that makes you wonder, like, so that's kind of just like how you were saying, right? Even autonomous vehicles, if everybody has one, will be fine. But you can't just jump from 0 to 100, right?
Yeah.
You're never going, it's never going to happen that way. We can't get everybody to be vaccinated. What makes you think everybody could have an autonomous vehicle? Or even if you say, okay, well, people don't need to own cars anymore, right? Because a car is going to come and pick you up. So ownership is not really a business model anymore.
Yeah.
Because currently, my car, actually, funny story, for the last 2 years, I didn't drive it as much as I normally did.
Same
My
for
car
me.
battery was dead.
I literally I sold my car
Oh
today.
my God.
Yeah, that
Good for you. I
yeah,
still
thank you.
have it because I have anxiety about living in Toronto because it's winter. how am I going to get my groceries if I don't have a car? I am not waiting
S-
for a cab with all
So
those
yeah,
things.
so when the pandemic hit, my actual office where I work is 5 minute less, like
Oh,
two
there you
minute
go.
2 minute walk from my
You
house.
don't even
Literally,
need it. Yeah.
no, it's 500 steps actually from here
Yeah.
to the office. So I have my car on my drive. Pandemic
Yeah.
hit, not going anywhere. You know, all the shops are within walking distance. You
Yeah.
know,
There you
if I
go.
need to go, so it's I covered it up.
Yeah.
I left it on the drive covered for a little time, and then I uncovered it, and I was like, damn, I'm an idiot. I
Yeah.
forgot to charge the battery. I forgot to turn
Good
this thing
Lord.
over.
Same thing here. Like
Yeah,
it's one of those things, right? I even bought like an automatic battery charger because I was
yeah, me
so sick
too.
of like standing there like an idiot.
Like a
And my
trickle
car's in an
charger.
underground. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
my
same
car is in
thing.
an underground garage, right?
Okay.
So cars don't come by as much. I live in a condo building.
Oh,
So
nice.
you got to stand there for a half hour, go beg security. Can you call somebody, anybody that you know, like that could give me a boost? So finally I bought like a Noco Boost. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah,
It's like an automatic battery with a push button, right? But silly me, not having as much experience with it. If you're having to do that every week, it's probably not, there's something
yeah.
wrong with your car. So finally the battery just dies and then it sits there for like 3 more months before I did something about it. And a
Yeah,
friend came and helped me because those things are super heavy. I can handle that on my own. So it's one of those things, right? If you think about the sequence of events that's this inspired, like I was willing to pay for somebody to come and change this battery,
yeah,
but CAA, which is kind of like Canadian Automotive Club, some version of that, they basically said, we don't even support your car. Like, how's that possible? My car's not
what?
like old or anything. Yeah, we just don't have a battery for that car because car
I
parts
I
don't
was having the
exist.
same sort of problem. My
Yeah.
car's not that old. I have
Oh,
an Audi A8, which is like the
yeah.
very large Audi.
Yeah.
But I was looking online for a
You
new
can't find
battery.
them. Yeah.
Couldn't find
I was
one.
lucky actually. I have an Infinity and
Yeah,
it's not that old, like 2015, right? You think that's not super new, but that's not
yeah.
super old either. And I was lucky. I was able to call three different dealership. What am I talking about? I'm mixing up business and personal life
Yeah,
together. That's
it's
what's
okay.
happening now. But the dealership actually had one. And then you go, well, can you deliver it? Because how am I supposed to come and
Yeah.
pick it up if my car doesn't work? That's a business model someone should think about. There's something we
It's like,
forgot to account.
yeah, I mean, there is something like that, isn't there? Like sort of like an Uber thing. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, if you need
Not
any,
not not where I am. At least I couldn't trace it down.
um,
But then the issue is even if they brought it to me, who's gonna change it? Right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
so that's why I was calling the auto club and they said, we don't service your car. Well, what if I bring my own battery? Well, no, we don't do that. What? So then my friend, who was very nice, actually drove an hour to first come pick me up, go get the battery, come back, change that battery. That was fun. But yeah, it's like one of those things, right? To your point, supply chains are a mess, right? So you can't find
Yeah.
these parts. In
Well,
fact,
I
go
was going
ahead.
to say the guy came today with his wife and son, and I know the
Yeah,
son, and so we located the battery. It's actually in the boot underneath the spare tire. I never would have found that.
good Lord. Like
um,
that's actually very unusual, right? Usually it would
yeah,
be in the front of the
yeah,
car,
yeah,
in the hood.
yeah. It's right in the back, under the
Well, I
trunk.
guess I guess it must be a rear wheel drive, right? For
I
Audis.
think it's
Or-
four wheel
Oh,
drive. I think
okay.
it's 4 wheel drive.
Interesting.
Well, it's called a quattro. So I
Oh,
don't.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Four-wheel
Yeah.
drive. Yeah.
Um, but it's like the sort of almost looks like a small limousine. It's that big.
Yeah. No, I know which one
Um,
you mean
yeah.
because my brother used to have one as well, an A8.
So he swapped the battery out. He brought a battery with him.
Yeah.
Put the new battery in. Started the car up first time and
Yeah.
got it started. And I was like, damn, he made that look easy. I was like, am
He
I
knows what he's
actually?
doing.
Yeah, I was like, am I actually gonna sell this thing? And I
No,
sat
he just
inside it,
fixed it.
and I was like, ah, should I just offer him money for the new battery? Or, but I did. I
No.
went through with it and sold it. And actually,
Yeah. No, I think
I'm
that's
happy.
a good decision, right? Because
Yeah,
it's well, first of all, he did all that work and
he did.
it'd be
Yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
weird, right? If
He
he
was
wanted to fix
excited.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he brought his wife as well, and
Yeah.
so
That's what I
we
mean.
yeah we came to a good deal. And
Yeah. Well, plus
yeah,
you don't need it anymore, right? Like it's I've become a bit of a minimalist myself, right? Like I come from the culture where you need to kind of have a big title, a big job, and
Mm.
once you get that, to live up to that name, you got to
So
have a big house.
where are you from? Like, I don't want to assume anything. Are you
Oh,
from
that's
India?
okay. From originally from India, right? So
Yeah,
everybody's either an engineer or a doctor or
yeah.
some such, right?
Or I heard one of my colleagues, Leka, she's from India, and she said
Yeah.
that it's good to work for the government or work for the train company, over there. 'Cause that's
Yeah,
quite
or one of the multinational companies, right? So that's
yeah,
what kind of
yeah,
people go for, right? That's what you aspire your kids to be. So it's one of those things, and that's how we grew up, right? So
yeah.
I was doing my high school in India. I actually got saved, to be very honest with you, because my parents came to Canada when I was just finishing the last year of high school in India, which is grade 12. So in grade 12, you have to write something called board exams, and they basically determine the rest of your life.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a very, very stressful time for an individual. If you're lucky enough to go to school in India, which a lot of people are suffering during pandemic, previous conversation, right? The
Yeah.
schools can't handle it. But
Like, what's it going to be like for people in India who are,
yeah,
you have the caste system over there, so the, people from the
to
lower
be honest, like
castes. Or,
it's interesting. So I don't have much context of that, unfortunately,
yeah.
for better or for worse, because when I was young, it was normal to live in a house, and we were like a middle class family, right? We were not like super rich. I was raised by a
Yeah.
single mother. She had one income and she raised two kids, and I'm the younger one. So I got the hand-me-downs from my brother, right?
Yeah.
At some point, which is fine. But it's one of those things where you'd leave the house, right? You're going to school, you've got your uniform on, it's ironed, your mother's taking care of you, right? You have food, you're carrying your lunchbox. And then there's the kid just across the street who lives in like a hut, doesn't have electricity, comes
Wow.
to your house every morning and goes, "Can I fill in my bucket of water?"
Yeah.
So that's their daily life. They come in, they fill in bucket of water 3 times a day because somebody's kind enough to let them do that from their house.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
water should be basic necessity. They shouldn't have to.
Yeah, and I thought you were going to say, so like there's the kid across the road who lives in the hut who then comes and he meets you and you both go to school together.
Oh God, no. It's literally you cross the street and
Wow.
there's a kid like living on the street
Yeah.
and barely has one pair of like pants and one shirt they put on every morning, right? So it's you literally see that, and you see some of that in BC as well. And that's why I was taken aback when I went to BC, because at that point when I started working, I'd been in Canada for about 4 years because I did my university undergraduate here and then I did my grad degree here.
Yeah.
So I spent 4 years in university here, and you become normalized, right? You don't see those people anymore. There's no
Yeah.
poverty in Canada, right? And then you go to BC, because maybe the parts of Toronto where I was living my life didn't have it. Then I went to BC, and if you Google it, there's a street called Hastings Street, and there's a East Hastings, and then there's a West Hastings. And everybody will tell you not to go to one of those. One
Yeah.
side has
Mm.
all the hotels, right? Because the government a while ago, years and years ago, sold part of that street to developers, and they built it lavishly. There's condos that nobody can afford, right? And
Yeah.
things like that, like literally waterfront facing property. I wonder how they're doing now with floods, those properties, quite frankly,
Mm.
because they're all glass buildings and literally like 10 feet away from water, right? As it feels. I'm sure it's a little bit more, but that's how it
Yeah.
feels. And then you go to the other side and you see needles on the road and cops and people just kind of walking around, and you could tell they're not okay. They're either on drugs or something's going on with them that
Yeah.
you maybe don't want to interface with them. You
Yeah,
don't
they're
want to
having a bad experience.
having a bad experience. And the first weekend that I decided to stay back, because usually on weekends I'll come home, I actually started to go on a walk, and I ended up in that part of the town, and I started getting looks from those people, like,
Mm.
and then you go, I'm gonna turn around. I don't feel safe anymore. And that was not a feeling I've had in Canada before that. In
Mm.
India, yes. You go, I don't want to be on the street at this time alone,
Yeah.
right? No offense to these people. Maybe it's nothing, but I just don't feel
Well,
safe.
maybe it's not nothing. I mean, that's a gut feeling, isn't it? And you've got to listen to your gut.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly,
you
right.
know,
But at the same time, you also go, well, what is making these people go and be in the street?
yeah.
right? Like
Uh,
Canada gets quite chilly.
a lack of opportunity, a lack of
Yeah,
stability.
something in the system's broken, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what you go. But yeah, anyway, that was quite an eye-opening one. And even as a few times we all used to carpool to work because there were a few of us from Toronto in Vancouver at that time. So we would rent one car and 4 or 5 of us would just agree to meet in front of our hotel at a certain point in time and drive to the client offices. And sometimes the road would take us like wherever the traffic's less, right? So we would drive by there. And if your windows are open, and my boss would say, oh, pull the windows up. We're
yeah.
hitting, it's like, oh my God,
Uh,
I feel so privileged sitting in this
yeah,
car right now going to the client
make sure
office.
that the doors are locked. Yeah, roll the windows up. Yeah,
Yeah. And then you would actually see the cops stopping people for random checks, like have they got needles or what's going on with these people? And so it's quite interesting, right? That you would think in developed societies you don't see that, but in India you don't see the drugs problem on the road. You literally see
yeah.
poverty. You literally would see that.
Well, where I used to live up in the north of England,
Yeah.
you know, I wasn't too far away from Manchester,
Yeah.
and I was talking to my friend about this yesterday. And the last time I was in Manchester, I was blown away by how many uh, number one, like how many shops were closed, and
Oh
number
wow,
two,
yeah.
how many shop doorways were populated by cardboard tents, people sleeping in those
Interesting.
streets, and then on top of that, how
Wow.
many homeless people or vagrant looking people there were completely spaced out on this drug, this synthetic opiate called spice. And
Oh
it
wow.
just turns them into zombies, and they just
Oh
like
my
stand
goodness.
there like that.
Yeah.
And these people were everywhere, everywhere. And
Wow.
I
Yeah.
didn't feel safe. That was like the last time I went there.
Yeah. And you wonder, right, if pandemic has a part in that because there is a certain level of unemployment and it
Well,
hits
this
the
was all pre-pandemic. This is like
oh wow.
4 years ago. Yeah,
Gosh.
yeah.
What is it like now? Do you
I
know?
had
Have you
no
driven by
idea.
that area? Yeah.
No, no, I
It'd
haven't
be
been back.
interesting to know. Like I said, I haven't been to Vancouver in years now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the thought of stepping on a plane for a 3 hour plane ride, I don't know if I'm up for that. But at the same time, do wonder what is Hastings Street like now, right? Because
Mm.
even the good side of Hastings Street, which used to be
Yeah.
hotels, they've got to be suffering during pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. There won't be any business for
So
them, you know.
yeah,
So
so is it all just becoming the same thing now? Like one thing.
how does you know, how does AI fix that? How
Yeah,
much control are we willing to give up to this machine? And also, who do we entrust to code the AI as well?
yeah. And that's the thing, right? So one thing that you will see is there's no general control AI in the world, right? And there's a
Mm.
reason for that. But what is starting to happen though, you're not going to get like one big AI coming in and saying, I'm in control, the Terminator style, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not how that happens. Nobody just goes in, nobody's stupid enough to go and build that AI. But what
We
will
hope.
happen,
We hope.
well, but I'll tell you my prediction, right? Like if I'm a betting person, here's where we're heading. So we're creating small solutions to problems that we see. We're automating things using AI, even little things like customer support, right?
Yeah.
You chatbot, right? You chat with them and they give you a refund, whatever is going on.
And they are getting more sophisticated now as well.
They're getting more sophisticated, right? So they're
Mm.
able to tell when you're getting frustrated and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
You layer that on with another business process, which created a separate AI because you're automating little problems right now, right? That's what people feel comfortable with, and that's how much money people are willing to put in. So 20,000, 30,000, 100,000, I've got this chatbot solution, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I've got an app that solves one tiny little problem. Now, it's a business process, though. It's not like it's a supply chain or a supply ecosystem. It's not just one tiny little thing. So once you've automated this, the problem shifts somewhere else, right? Something
Mm.
else now becomes a problem. If the problem previously for you as a consumer was I'm on hold for 50 hours because there's only so many call center people, AI
Yeah.
gives me that experience really fast. Sure, you got the faster experience, but maybe the problem shifted to the way that you receive the product now or the way the refund comes back. So then the company goes, okay, well, let's look at that problem now. So you're looking at
Mm.
one problem at a time. You see my point?
Yeah.
You're creating AI solutions. At some point, they get pieced together, whether you like it or not. Because you, as a human being, your whole flow, it's not owned by anybody, right? So the payments coming from a credit card company, that's the bank. the product is manufactured by another company
Yeah.
in China somewhere, right? That's where it's coming from. Then a US company built a website that sells you that product.
Mm.
Then another company ships you that product. Nobody's
Yeah.
owning that whole thing, right? There's no policy,
Yeah.
right? That's where this conversation is going, right? What is a responsible AI policy? And in fact, European Union has been having a lot of these conversations, right? Should you allow companies like big tech to have that kind of data on people, have that kind of power that they're creating these AI solutions? Because the whole point is people who have that data, that information can find which problems to solve, and they'll invest in those problems. They may not tell you why they invested in those problems, but you'll receive a solution, you'll be happy for the time
Mm.
being. When you piece it together, who's going to pay the price?
The consumer.
Consumer, rest of the world. Like, look at the global warming, right? It didn't
Yeah.
happen in one overnight, right? One factory there, one factory there. I'll just put one more over there. And now we need the trucks to ship the material. Oh,
Yeah.
people want bigger houses? Fine, let's move them to the outskirts of the town. And by the way, now they need their Christmas shopping and Black Friday, right? So like, these problems are multiplying, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So same thing's going to happen with AI. Look at your history as a human, right? That's exactly, it's not new. It's just that
Mm.
you've got a solution that's so much more sophisticated that before it took you 10 years to realize there was a problem, this solution can make decisions like that. And it's compounding those decisions and it's growing its data set to make those decisions. So there
Mm.
was a TED talk, I'm forgetting the name of the gentleman. I'll find it and I'll send it to you. So he had this chart, right? In intelligence. So here's time and here's intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So it's an exponential curve. So he goes, okay, at the bottom you've got like a chicken, right? No intelligence, no concept of time,
Yeah.
just wandering around, whatever, right?
Just pure instinct.
Pure instinct, right? So then there's humans, if and maybe you could give it a little bit of a timeline because early man or whatever, like and then you develop language and then you do this and then you do that. So it becomes a bit of an exponential curve.
Yeah.
So you've grown in time, but you've also grown in intelligence, right? But at some
Mm.
point you're going to taper off because your brain can only handle so much and evolution can only give you so much,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So, but then you develop an AI, which is superhuman, and then that's when it takes off. So
Yeah.
he had that on one slide
In
and next
hardly any
slide,
time as well.
hardly any time, right? And you were just giving it, we were feeding it like wildfire, right? On next slide, he had this other cartoon where a human is building a house and it sees an ant, what is it called? Like an ant home, ant
Yeah,
hill,
like an anthill. Yeah.
ant hill, right? So it goes, I need to build something here. It's in my way. I'm just gonna like, yeah, whatever, destroy it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that human, like
Is
you zoom
mm,
out and then there's like a robot AI thing and it's going, well,
yeah.
I need to build something here and this human thing is here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So it's cautionary tales like that, right? And it's both sides of the game, right? So there's without AI, I don't think you're going to solve climate change issues now. Like, what are you going to do? Oh, we're too far gone, right? Without it, you can't solve it.
Yeah. Is there any way to control the global sorry, I don't know if you can hear anything in
Oh
the
yeah, I
background.
just realized we've been on for quite a while. Actually, if
Yeah,
you have
no,
to
no,
go,
it's
I
fine.
completely understand.
I just heard my kids
Your
screaming.
daughter. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you
I
have to
thought,
go and get
no,
them
no, no, it's okay. I'm not sure what they're doing. Sorry about that.
playing.
What was I going to say?
They're
Yeah,
eating your cake. They're eating your birthday cake. That's
they
what they're
are.
doing.
Is there any way that we can or AI can change the, like, again, if you think of Star Trek, they have
Mhm.
this global weather pattern system that where they can manipulate the weather so that
Yeah.
everywhere, all around the world, all at the same time has got perfect weather
But
for
think about it
everybody.
this way, how do you even do that? And again, this is where equity, leadership, accountability, some of these things coincide, right? Like imagine if it takes you 100
what